Space Invaders Extreme.
Released in 2008 for PlayStation Portable, Nintendo DS, and later in 2009 for Xbox 360 via the Xbox Live Arcade service, to commemorate the then 30th anniversary of the original Space Invaders arcade game. And then lo and behold, it took a little while longer, but Space Invaders Extreme graced PCs through Steam in 2018, just in time to commemorate the 40th anniversary of Space Invaders. Funny how that works out. I got the PSP version ages ago, even did a little video on it, and this Steam release isn't all that different from the earlier version. There's probably a couple additions here and there, such as an extra set of 5 stages you could play upon beating 5 of the game's initial 11 stages that play out through branching paths, some leaderboard support for anyone who cares for that sort of thing, and a lack of multiplayer functionality, which is odd because the earlier version from 10 years ago had multiplayer, and you'd think something like that would be worth keeping on a gaming environment with a massive multiplayer install base, but alas, nada, go figure. I don't know. Whatever, moving on. In any event, I digress. Back to Space Invaders Extreme, where you have a wave of descending invaders that you have to kill off before they land and kill you. Fairly basic gameplay that's similar to what you get out of the old arcade game from like 30, 40, 50, 70, whatever years ago, except now they added extra gimmicks such as invaders of varying sizes, invaders with shields and super lasers, and other things of that nature. Shooting invaders of the same color will grant you temporary weapon boosts such as piercing lasers, explosive shots, and other gimmicks, to name a couple. There are also bonus rounds and roulette gimmicks, boss battles, and a whole bunch of other stuff that will kill your brain in due time. So your control setup is simple enough. You move left, you move right, you shoot upwards, you could hold your power up if you hold down a button. Fairly simple basic stuff, nothing spectacular, and it works well enough. There's gamepad support, but the game only offers customization for keyboard controls, which is odd, but regardless, what you have here is fairly simple gameplay on top of a whole lot of sensory overloads and flashy garnishes that make the game a little more than the simple and straightforward experience that it really is. Look at all of them pretty colors in the background, that flashy movie. And now turn it off and this is what you're left with. A much faster paced Space Invaders game for a less patient lot. That's a good thing, by the way, because Space Invaders I always found was a little slow for my tastes. Now here it is in a much more speedier package. The whole branching paths bit of Extreme is a neat idea because it gives the game a little bit of replay value if all you want is to just complete all there is to complete, even if there isn't much to complete. The extra stages are a nice touch, giving this new version something more for those who have already played the older release ad nauseum. But the lack of multiplayer is puzzling. Mind you, it's not something I personally care for, but considering this was a feature when the game was released a decade ago, it's a bit of an odd omission. So Space Invaders Extreme has your classic looking invaders, some visual effects that are visual, and a series of seizure-inducing videos that play in the background. It never reaches Tempest X1000 levels of excessive melto-vision splendor, whatever that means, but in terms of making the game visually stimulating, it does get the job done. You do have the option to disable the movies and just play the game with a plain black background, but it also takes away the flavor of Extreme from the overall package. At the very least, the game performs at a modest pace, and everything flows nice and smoothly. Your audio content in Space Invaders Extreme comprise a number of upbeat techno-based tunes that are very techno and a worthwhile complement to the visual hysteria of the game. Some interesting choices in sound effects, in particular when you kill off invaders as it plays different notes of music. And then there are some voice bites from an anonymous sensual woman who actually sounds more lively here than in the older version. At least I think so. I don't know, take a brief listen here.
Space Invaders Extreme. Space Invaders Extreme.
So, somewhat of a slight upgrade there. At least to me, your mileage may vary. Overall, Space Invaders Extreme was a worthy remake of an arcade classic done exceptionally well when it was released 10 years ago, and it still holds up well on this higher definition format on Steam. It maintains the core gameplay elements of the classic game, but tweaks it a bit to be a little more quick-paced, and also adds this other stuff on top of that. Those who have played the original 2008 iterations of Space Invaders Extreme should feel right at home with this one, though your mileage is going to vary as to whether the $20 price tag is justified in revisiting a somewhat old game that may or may not be up to par with the earlier versions. Personally, I had fun with this game, and it was nice to be able to play this on my monitor full screen than on my TV with a small image that I had to work with before. So yeah, good stuff coming from this Space Invaders Extreme video game.
Stage cleared.